Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Jim Scoggins. This is the EV course. We appreciate you coming again today. What you see on the screen, can everyone see the vehicles that are kind of going around in a circle? This was from the Washington Auto Show last week. Last week we talked a lot about the history of electric vehicles, the beginning of the transportation revolution, and basically where the United States is right now, kind of we're in the forefront in many areas as a result of some of the Tesla technology that kind of kicked it off, and other manufacturers are now pretty much are really catching up. I believe that we're going to probably meet the goals that have been established for 2035 in terms of being predominantly electric. Between now and then, when I talked last week about the bridge technologies, hybrid and plug-in hybrids, and even eventually fuel cell technology, all of those will help lead us to probably a full electric conversion over the next decade or so. But it's going to take some more technological advancements that are in the works. Today, I want to talk about more practical areas. I need to start out with battery technology, but before I do that, if you go to the next slide, please. So people were asking questions about the Rivian, and so I wanted to show you what it looked like. But the F-150 Lightning gets exceptional reviews. If you wanted to stay with the truck, these are the 4 trucks that are currently on the market.
There's nothing on the bottom here.
Okay.
You go one more, if you like. Next, please.
All right.
Okay.
These are trucks that'll be out in 2024 and 2025 by Ram, which is owned by Stellantis now, and then GM will be introducing their Silverado and their Electra.
What kind of mileage do they get?
Well,
Trucks?
you mean they're predicting between 400 and 500, between 400.
They're to change the lexicon here.
Yeah, the lexicon. So they're talking about 400 to 500 miles on a charge in that range, you know. So and that's one reason I think that these, and a lot of that has to do with the numbers of batteries that you actually put in your battery bank. So that's one reason some of the vehicles get higher mileages. Even there's a Tesla that gets 405 miles. It has more batteries within their battery bank using the same lithium ion technology. But that's a good segue to battery technology. Right now, we were just talking about in the class here before that China is they control a lot of the manufacturing. I'm going to zip through, so please bear with me here because I'm going to really zip through the battery technology because I think the other parts of it are probably more important to the course. But right here where you see the 2 different types of batteries that are currently the ones in the bottom are the ones in use today and that will remain in use today for the next probably 18 months or so.
You said next.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I said next. for until about 2025, and there are many different battery technologies in development besides solid state, which are anticipated to move us even farther along in terms of mileage, in terms of speed of charging, and other important assets. Next, please. So these 3 at the top, you can see they're working on solid state, but trust me, Ford and GM and the rest of them are also working on solid state. Everybody is trying to crack that. China has a semi-solid state battery right now that they have in use, and France, believe it or not, France has made some really good advancements in that area. Next, please. So these are where some of the factories are located throughout the United States and other places in the world for some of the different manufacturers. If you see the 2 on the bottom, QuantumScape, I'm sorry, those 2 companies on the bottom are only battery manufacturing. That's all they do. And they are manufacturing and they're focusing only on solid state batteries right now. So they feel pretty confident that they've got some technology that will get us there. But one of the key reasons, if you look at right here, this slide shows the two main components of battery technology, and the companies on the left are the ones that are developing technology, and the ones on the far right kind of shows you what the differences is in the components, even to come up with solid state batteries. So as the CEO of General Motors said recently, we're probably never going to have just one battery solution at any one time for any one vehicle. They will eventually have different battery types for different vehicles depending on the usage, because they feel there will be so many different really high-end batteries that will provide more mileage and faster charging that we have today.
Will batteries be interchangeable?
Well, there are countries that have experimented with actually taking entire batteries out and moving them. China's one of them. And they've come up with ways to do that, where you could go and exchange an entire battery pack. That really is only useful for small vehicles. Right now, the way the vehicles are designed, the chassis doesn't really lend itself to that. But you will be able to go get a replacement battery, we believe, within a couple of years. The cars will be designed to be able to replace. I think the vehicles today could easily, I think they can get to the batteries by taking out the seats the way they're designed. That's something I haven't found as much information on. And when I tried to research, I didn't find very much on that. But I do know that you'll be able to replace the batteries with the current batteries. So I'm pretty sure you can replace them with new technology down the road. If you look at the right here, those are the minerals that are in the batteries. And copper is an important one. It comes from Chile, Peru, China, and the U.S. Steel comes from Australia, Brazil, China, India, and Russia. Lithium, even though it's a small percentage, 3.2, is probably the most critical percentage in batteries. And right now, most of the deposits are in Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile. But there's also, they're mining it from Australia and in China. So all of these different components are key to all batteries being made today. And what I saw an article just yesterday where the Pentagon is looking at artificial intelligence programs to determine not just locations, but also estimate prices for purchasing of critical minerals and trying to track them and determine, where we need to put investments. So one of the main components is cobalt, and cobalt is almost only found in the Congo in Africa. So the United States government has just recently entered into a regulatory agreement a contract with the government of Africa and Congo, the DRC, in order to mine, a partnership to mine and assure them contracts. So it's something that we have to constantly be aware of, is that, when you have very precious metals and components within batteries, we have to make sure we have a consistent supply chain. Next, please. If you look on the left there, those numbers kind of change over time in terms of where those minerals come from. But China is by and far has a handle on the majority of the metals that are critical metals that are needed, and that is a challenge for us as a nation. Next, please. You can look at this. Just kind of shows you in a chart that on the left side shows you in 2022 where China was 77% of the control of metals used for lithium-ion batteries, and today by 2027 we anticipate that to be down to 69%. But the green right there really shows you their dominance in the supply chain. They got way out in front of us, in front of the world, really, in this. A lot of it had to do with with their policies in country in terms of trying to jumpstart.
Did you see the thing on 60 Minutes this week about how much water the refining of lithium?
No, she said, the question was, did I see anything on 60 Minutes in terms of the amount of water used for lithium refining? And I'm sure that's a challenge everywhere. Water as a resource is a problem worldwide in terms of manufacturing.
But you can't use seawater, ocean seawater.
No.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
So those are the companies right now, and the percentage, CATL is the #1 battery manufacturer. They're located in China. But LG is, they're 34% of battery manufacturing currently capacity. LG, South Korea, has 14%, which is good for us. And then BYD, next China, is 12%. And then Panasonic is headquartered in Japan, but Panasonic has factories here in the United States, and they are making some good progress on solid state battery technology. So there's the CATL building in China, one of their main headquarters, and they recently decided to move their headquarters to Hong Kong for tax advantages and other advantages in terms of global marketing. So if you remember what I just said a minute ago, 70% of the world's cobalt comes from the Congo, and we have to make sure that we have access to that. So there's a lot of effort being put into that right now. Next, please. These are some of the battery technologies between right now. You see the top two, where we are today, where we'll be very soon in terms of solid state replacing traditional lithium ion. But all of these other battery technologies that you see are under development in labs throughout the country and throughout the world. And all of them are showing some level, high degree of potential. Next, please. So there's an example of what I was saying about China having a vehicle that gets it's proof of the technology, of the solid state battery technology. And if you look at that, the CEO drove this vehicle for 648 miles in below freezing temperatures. And so it really showed the potential there for solid state batteries. And there's another one. Quantum State that I mentioned was a company in California that is developing solid state batteries for Volkswagen primarily. And one of the knocks on batteries, people would say, oh, I wonder how much charge it loses after 100,000, after 150,000. They're finding that we were talking earlier, the batteries used in Prius hybrids lose very, very little as they are. It's not a significant loss, but the solid state shows even a greater propensity to go farther and charge faster and holds its battery life.
Will
Next,
this
please.
be for Volkswagens being built here in the United States?
Yes. Yeah. And so, I'm sorry, what was the question again, Lynn? Let me just make sure I have that right.
Will they be doing this for Volkswagen here?
Yes.
Manufacturing?
Quantum State is going to be, they're going to be developing batteries for Volkswagens here in the United States. But Volkswagen was, one of the things with this technology is that, there was a time when we tried to develop technology and hire our own engineers. And now, because of how fast the landscape changed, corporations basically moved to where the capability exists or the engineers exist. So Volkswagen has now also contracted with a corporation in France that seems to be maybe even ahead of QuantumScape in development. So they're keeping their investments in QuantumScape, but they're also moving some investment into France. So it's one of these things that it's moving so fast. In fact, as I'm doing the research for this course, so many things have changed just in the last 2 weeks. It's just amazing. It's hard to stay up with it. There's next, please. Lamborghini. In case anybody's looking to replace their Lamborghini, they're going to have. There's the Panasonic using powder powered batteries. That was one of the silicon anode technologies that we mentioned. They're making progress with another type of of component within batteries that look like they could go easily go 500 miles in a 10-minute recharge, which gets to where, that gets to where you kind of are with pumping gas, right? That's close enough. Next, please. So as we move into EV charging, one of the things that's so important to understand about EV charging is there are currently 3 levels. Okay, so if you have an EV at home, you can charge with either 120 volt or 240 volt, which runs on 220. The chargers are for global use or US use. They'll run on either 220 or 240. 240 is a European voltage. And a level 2 charger is something you can buy it on Amazon, or you can buy it from a company. There are a lot of companies now that just install chargers, and they'll send an electrician to your home and put it in. I have a small RV, and I had one put in for my RV on the side of the house, and I had just a separate 30 amp, circuit breaker. Yeah, on the outside of the house, and I had it put on the outside of the house, and then I had the electrician put in a 30 amp dedicated breaker, and I always have it on off unless I'm charging, but you don't have to do that in your own home. Most people will have this in their garage. You don't have to have it in your garage. You can charge it out in front of your house. But if you look at the principle on the right-hand side, that's the way electricity works. The faster, the larger the cable, the larger, the better the flow through there. So when you get to, next please, when you get into level 3, which is called DC fast charging versus AC, the level 3, and eventually there will be a level 4, that shows you the approximate amount of hours it takes to charge a vehicle. If you look at, one of the reason Tesla has done so well is they put out Tesla superchargers throughout the country, and they use what's called an NACS charging standard. The NACS charging standard was just recently opened up to other car manufacturers. So Ford and GM within a few months, and others are all going to have access to the Tesla superchargers as well. So, but that gives you an idea about how long it takes if you use a level 1 or a level 2 or a level 3 charger to charge a vehicle. And there's a couple of the chargers you can buy up on the right-hand side. You can look at reviews online. That's about the price they range on Amazon for either level 1 or level 2 chargers. Next, please. So if you have a level 3, that shows you the amount of draw. That's why you can't use at a home. You can't really use it. You need over 400 volts of electricity, which we don't have running through our own home electric circuit currently. So level 1 and level 2 for home. Level 2 and level 3 when you're on the road is what you're going to see when you go to, a restaurant, any type of a charging network that you're going to find on your apps. Next, please. So these are the apps that when you buy a vehicle, it comes with, like for instance, the gentleman that is, his wife is an instructor here for Chesapeake Forum. I was talking to them when we had the event over at the Art Museum. And they said they have Electrify America. They bought an Ioniq 5. They're currently on their way to Florida, or maybe that's where they were going to be during this course. That's why they didn't participate. But they got 2 free years with Electrify America. But these apps generally are pretty cheap. If you have to, the apps are free. You can buy actual. Some of these charging services have a monthly fee with them, but the fees tend to be like $4 to $8 a month. If you want to buy an app, and that's basically to try to encourage you to use their app. This is the process to charge your vehicle. It's not much different than filling up gas in a vehicle. So you're basically your display in your car shows you where charging stations are available on the screen itself. When you buy an EV, it'll have a GPS locator. That where with us, with a normal car today, it's basically you're setting it for your destination. But in the electric vehicles, you'll see that it actually shows you where the charging locations are automatically, and it shows you where, whether they're available. These are only going to get better and better, where it's going to actually give you even a whole lot more information. So-
they all have the same port,
I'm sorry?
like,
Yeah.
there's different brands.
Right. It's all migrating. Right now, there are 3 charging. Well, I've actually got some slides on that. I'll show you. That's the next question. Good question. She asked if they use the same cord. Those are the 3 charging standards. They're called CCS, CHAdeMO, and then Tesla Supercharger, which uses, when I said the NAC charging standard. Those first 2 right now are what most of the vehicles, and most of the vehicles in the United States you buy today come with CCS if they're not a Tesla, but they are now being opened up to use, so you can use any of the chargers, including the Tesla Superchargers.
So newer models will have.
Yeah, well, actually, models that are built starting in 2024, they're going to start building them with only one plug that works on any of the Tesla or any of the other chargers as well.
2024.
Yeah, but you can still use these. If you bought an EV this year or last year, and you wanted to use the Tesla chargers, if they had the 400 volt, which is do have 400 volt.
There was a news just this week about Ford putting out an adapter.
That's right. That's what I was going to say. You can buy an adapter. All of them have that. I've got a picture of an adapter online, or you can buy them right off of Amazon, and you can just leave it on there if you want. So it's no trouble. Next, please. So these models on the left that I was telling you, they came out with, they were the CCS standard, and you notice the ones that used the CHAdeMO were basically, most of those are in Asia. That was their standard, but it's kind of like when computers came out, if you remember all the different standards they had for computers, and then eventually you had one standard. That's the way everything always works with technology. People try to develop their own standard, and then it merges into one standard, and that's what we will have probably within another year. So this is what I said, it was the North American charging standard, which is also called the Tesla charging standard. It uses the same type of connector. Look at the bottom there, it says that Ford, General Motors, all these have plans to build them into their cars. So this is a slide you can kind of read on your own if you want to, but it basically shows that at first it was Ford and GM, and just even during the course of this, over the time that I was developing this course, all the other manufacturers, they've agreed to open them up, and all of them have agreed to go to the NAS charging standard. Next, please.
Because Tesla got into the market first.
They got
and
into
had all of those.
Correct. She asked if that was because Tesla got in the market first, and they got so many chargers out there, and that's absolutely true. And it also required an agreement from Tesla to say, we're willing to allow these other vehicle manufacturers to use our chargers. So that had to be worked out.
We're willing to
And-
make money.
Exactly. It's all about money, everything. Next, please. There's an example of if you want to use a charger that you want to use it for your own vehicle to charge on the level 3. And that shows you ionic fire in the background. You can go EVs. Yeah, it's just, you can buy adapters. And if you buy a vehicle, they'll tell you what you need to be able to use any of the chargers. But right now, this I think kind of is a good slide because it shows you what it costs you to charge your vehicle at home. So typically it's about $3 to $8 to charge a vehicle from completely empty to full. So an average, you generally try, just like a car, you're generally not going to let it get below 20% before you start charging it. So it's probably going to cost you about $5 to charge. If you go to a public station, it's going to charge you more depending on that type of station.
Is there any harm with continually plugging it in?
Any what, I'm sorry?
Any harm? to
With
the
leaving it plugged in?
Yeah.
No, in fact, that's some of the things I'm going to talk about too, is there's apps that allow you to have your vehicle charge. OptiWatt is one of the companies that comes out. You can buy this app that you can have it charge when the price of electricity is the lowest, and it will also notice when your car is full and shut it off.
Huh?
So, next please. There's a level 4, and kind of show you where we're headed. Their level 4 is an 800 volt architecture, and that is already available in some parts of Europe. So, and it's super, super fast. So That's not here yet in the United States, but it's coming down the road. Level 4 supercharged. Next, please. Requires an 800 volt architecture. Remember I told you about the size of the wires and things? That's where Stellantis has decided that their architecture is going to be all 800 volt on all their new cars globally. So it can take any all the way from 1 to 4. So the average charging time, this was showing you for today. When you go to a charger, the average charging time for a charging session was somewhere around, for a non-Tesla supercharger, a non-Tesla charger, not a supercharger, a non-Tesla charger, most people spend about 42 minutes. And at a Tesla supercharger, about 31 minutes was the average. If you wanted to see how much time people usually spend at a charger today. So when you plan a trip, you plan it a little differently. I mentioned last week, that the couple that went to Rhode Island last week, about a month ago, they said it took them about an extra hour over what they normally took. It was just, not a big deal. And if you're using that hour to eat dinner or something, there you go. But when I mentioned some of these require a membership for a charging station, and they're not expensive. Next, please. So I put this in there just so you can look at this if you want. You can study. This is satisfaction from customers on the different home charging systems you can buy. So just like Amazon rates everything, you can go on and look at JD Power and other ones before you buy one, decide which one you want to buy. Some of the better ones cost more money. Next, please, the ones that have the higher ratings, obviously. Let's get into charging infrastructure. These are the manufacturers worldwide. If you look at the bottom, different companies, different corporations are entering into contracts with some of these different manufacturers. So if you go to IKEA, you're generally going to see a Blink charging station made by Blink. ChargePoint is very, very big. Siemens overseas is bigger than it is in the United States, but these are the ones that are selling the most charging systems worldwide. Next, please. These are the charging networks that are available and that are being built out pretty quickly. And it's funny, all of those are Electrify America. The interesting thing about Electrify America is that if you remember years ago that Volkswagen got caught cheating on their diesel vehicles, and they got in trouble because they were found to be cheating by the EPA, and they were actually emitting more into the atmosphere than they had said that their vehicles were through tests. So their labs were found to have been cheating. So they got fined. They got fined over $1 billion. And so there was an agreement that was reached with the U.S. government and Volkswagen to use that $1 billion to help build out charging infrastructure. So Electrify America is actually a lot of that charging infrastructure is using that money from that fine from Volkswagen. But it's one of the largest charging. All of these are very large, by the way. Ford Blue Oval is opening. They're a little interesting because Ford was originally going to build their own charging infrastructure, and so was GM. But they've decided it's probably going to be faster and more advantageous to partner with some of the other charging networks. The Ford has a big an agreement with Tesla. And then just in July, these 7 auto manufacturers all came out and decided they're going to build their own charging network worldwide, not just in the United States, but also worldwide. So, they will encourage you, if you buy one of those vehicles on the rate, they'll make it, you'll get a discount, I'm sure, for using their charging network as well that's being built out. This is the program that was being within the infrastructure bill, that money that went to states. And see the second slide right there? It says that infrastructure will be installed every 50 miles, sort of like when you get a New Jersey Turnpike and you see a charging station along the way. China already has that. They're already built every 25 miles within their highway infrastructure. They have a charging infrastructure, but we're not going to need that because we're going to have a lot of private charging infrastructure, not just public. And this is this shows you the Electrify America's cross-country route. If you want to plan a trip and you want to guarantee that you're going to have NACS fast charging network, you can take those two routes that are marked in colors. Those are going to be designated to have, to be guaranteed to have fast chargers, the quickest built out.
The old Lincoln Highway.
Or no,
Dixie
no,
Highway.
no, Russian.
Yeah. This is kind of where they are now. They're going to be continuing to add to this. Next, please. So EVgo, one of the things about EVgo, and then GM is also with some of their partnerships this is one of their partnerships, but they are insisting on using 100% renewable energy for their charging networks. And I mentioned Blue Oval that's what Ford calls, they call their charging network Blue Oval. But if you buy their vehicle, they will, encourage you to use their charging networks. But again, there's ChargePoint already has 27,000 stations nationwide, and Tesla is about the same. So the ones on the right there, that was one of the alliances I mentioned before. It's hard to keep up with them because they're constantly merging and entering into new contracts with each other. Next, please. This was kind of interesting. Shell, which is, I noticed that from some of my past work, was that a lot of these oil companies had decided, well, we need to get out in front of the game ourselves because we can see where everything's going. So Shell's got into the business of fleet charging. So they're going to have a network themselves, and they're going to encourage all of the fleet, Amazon, FedEx, UPS, the U.S. Postal Service. They're encouraging them to use their charging systems at Shell stations. So they're going to build out networks across the country for fleet charging. Next, please. This is called Shell Recharge. So if you enter an agreement with them, they're gonna try to guarantee you, that you're going to be able to keep your fleet charged. They want you to enter a contract with them for your fleets. They'll help make sure that, that you're never going to have a problem keeping your vehicles on the road. And their issue is going to be reliability, because there have been some issues with reliability on some of these charging networks. People have discovered that some of them don't work when you get out on the highway. Yes, sir.
Just a quick anecdote / question. Friend of a friend who took a trip through the South, there were offered a few charging stations. When he found one, as a political statement, Bubba and his huge old fossil fuel pickup parked it in front of the charging station. So they couldn't tell.
Yeah, that's right. Isn't that funny? I'm going to repeat the comment was Kurt said that the gentleman that was taking a trip with his electric vehicle through the South, and Bubba was blocking the charging system with his giant four-wheel drive vehicle. But that is interesting. I think it's funny, and it is kind of interesting. I think you'll see that California is way out in front, and I mentioned that they have the most charging, they have the most electric vehicles. But I think you're going to see. I think a lot of the states in the South are also going to move with it. But there is a political angle to it in terms of adoption. ChargePoint. This is just talks about one of the ChargePoint stations that it's one of the networks that a lot of the manufacturers are partnering with. So they also plan to have the NACS compatible level 3 charging for all vehicles. Next, please. Starbucks has said that they want to put charging stations. You think how many Starbucks are across the country, right? They have 15,000 locations. They plan to put charging throughout the country, and there's an advantage. There's a business angle to that, right? I mean, why would you want to plug it in and go in and spend some money in the business? Next, please.
Salespeople use the Starbucks too.
They also need to follow the standards. I know I have an electric vehicle.
Yes.
And I went to I think it was a grocery store that had chargers, and I charged my car, expecting to be there for an hour. And I found out that instead of being 25 miles added to the mileage, only 12.
You only got 12 miles
So
added.
they are running their system half power.
Half hour, yeah, some of that, all of that has to, right now, very, very early. And the gentleman said that he went to charge his vehicle and he only got half as much charge as he anticipated because they were running it at half power. So, we are kind of early in the game and a lot of that is gonna, the companies that aren't able to solve that problem, I think they're gonna go by the wayside. Walmart is planning to have a charger at every Walmart nationwide. And they're gonna, EV fast charging by 2030 is their anticipated goal. And they expect it to be very low cost charging. And their, Walmart has said that this is one of their claims was that I didn't know this. There is a Walmart nationwide located within 90% of the US population, if you can believe that. Yes.
Are there mobile charging services available now? If somebody miscalculates and they're 50 miles when they run out of
Right, it's funny you said that. I have read that is beginning to happen, where you have a tow truck that actually has large battery pack chargers that will be able to come out and put you,
AAA guy.
and charge you enough like they would if they put 6 gallons of gas in your car. I'm not sure that's probably not available in many places yet, but it will be because there will be a
So
market for it.
presently, you'd have to get your car towed into the next.
Right, so you could get towed to a charging station today if you didn't have that capability, just like you'd get towed to a gas station.
Oh, I see it at IKEA and DP.
Yeah, so, next please, and yeah, if you look at, there's a list of, every one of these national corporations have decided that they're gonna add charging systems to their businesses, because they realize, that's also an incentive to go shopping there, right? I
A
mean,
good place for a solar carport over those.
exactly, that's right, and that's something you're gonna see more and more, I think, I'm gonna touch on that. Go ahead, next please.
Did you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
This lady in front of me had her hand. Go.
Oh, I did, but I was wondering, like, a phone has a battery pack. If you
Right.
have the extra space in your car that nobody's sitting there, could you put a battery in it and it would be an extra charge like a phone battery?
Yeah, I would think you can, because you can buy,
Emergency backup.
Yeah.
yeah, emergency backup, yeah. I mean, I don't know yet if the lithium batteries will have sufficient capacity in order to get you very far with that type, without having a larger, a larger battery that
Should it-
charges faster.
You could make a battery that looks like an extra person, so you can.
That's right, you can drive on the
The HOV light.
Yeah, that's funny. I think you're gonna see so much innovation over the next few years. I think it's fun. It's fun to track it. It's exciting because it opens up so many opportunities. Just remember that this isn't change. Everybody has a problem. People have a problem with change. You guys are in this class because you don't have a problem with change because you're interested. You're interested in new technology and new things. I've always found it exciting. I found this whole, revolution sort of fascinating because it's gonna, there are gonna be a lot of people that are gonna become, billionaires over solving these kind of problems like we're talking today. Tow trucks, you'll be able to buy a tow truck that already comes with a big battery pack, installed in it when you buy the tow truck. It has either a hook or a battery pack, things like that. And those will probably run with right now, it'll probably run with a generator that can charge their battery packs, but
Probably have their motor.
and a motor, yeah, from the motor on the vehicle, we wired that way, correct. Okay, so let's talk about the power grid, because a lot of people worry about what's the impact, don't go forward yet. What's the impact on the power grid? Well, two big things happened in our lifetimes. Not everyone that's lifetime, but at least my lifetime and some others. In 1960s, there was something that happened where everybody worried about the power grid and the impacts of how we were going to deal with it. Does anybody know what that was that happened in the 1960s?
That would have blackouts.
No, what was it in 1960s that everyone was so afraid that we wouldn't be able to let you go forward?
I thought it was fuel.
No, go forward one, and then keep it there.
Air conditioning.
Anybody remember getting these in their homes?
No.
We had and a lot of people had multiple air conditioners. They draw a lot of amperage. And There were people that had, you could see apartment developments that had them all up and down the sides of these buildings, every single one, and particularly in cities. Think about the electricity draw from, from an air conditioning unit. So that was something that they were afraid that it would really, really impact the grid. But what they find is that the electric companies find ways to, build more capacity. They add more distribution, more transformers along the way to balance the load. And they didn't have technology back then that they have today that allows them to balance loads. And that's where we're going to be going to. I'm going to get into that microgrid to smart grid technology. Right now, we're not even utilizing our electricity capacity very smartly. But technology is allowing us to use it much more efficiently. And next one, please. So I had two of the same slides. So
Okay, I was
keep
just
it
gonna
there,
say,
yeah.
one forward.
Because one of the things that we have to think about is, one of the things in my business, we are always worried about foreign actors taking down the power grid, right? You look at how that can happen. The way power grids are designed, they generally are segmented. So, it's more difficult. I know Lynn is doing a course on that. But in terms of a cyber attack, it's generally a denial of service and other types of attacks. It's more difficult to take down an entire grid. You can often take down a segment of a grid at a time. Some of the technology that is being developed right now will also help with that, with major battery backup systems that are being developed, so that they can bring them back online faster and accommodate running that grid without having to worry about even it being down for any period of time. Next, please. So this was the next thing that happened in the 1980s, if you remember. Everyone had a personal computer in their house. Every kid needed one for school. You needed one. You had printers. Pretty soon you had, multiple rooms in houses that had, computers. All of this took more power. Every company across the country started putting in personal computers.
You said last week that the huge amount of electricity used to produce gasoline would be an offset against all the usage for the charging. Do you have any idea what the relationship is?
What the correlation is? Well, I did, that slide showed some stats, but producing the gasoline, if you're producing less gasoline,
Starts to balance.
the transfer, the savings is going to be transferred over to, in terms of power an electric vehicle. There's kind of it's not a one for one. It takes a lot more energy to produce 20 gallons of gasoline than it does to charge an electric vehicle.
Right.
It was something like 3 to 1 as much energy. So that's an
So
argument.
we'll need less energy if all the cars are.
Correct. We'll need actually less energy, but most of the energy right now is concentrated in areas where they do refining. So, but it does put impact the grid itself. So, what we have to go, you can go forward if you want. What I want to do is see if this plays. I'm not sure this is the one that, I think this one I meant to take out. I think this one might be a problem. I'm not sure. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Is this it?
Yeah, go forward. Go ahead and play that if you would.
Okay.
Now is the time to reimagine our electric systems. One way to power into the future is with microgrids. The truth is, most of the transmission towers we rely on today for electric power were built in the 1950s. The life expectancy for this national network of towers was approximately 50 years. Our grandparents' grid system is way past its prime. It's unreliable, dirty, and expensive, and it can't handle the demands of the 21st century. It can't handle threats of cyber warfare. It can't handle extreme weather events. It can't ensure that critical facilities like hospitals stay functioning when the lights go out. One transmission failure can ripple through many communities. Our traditional grid system also fails to handle the increasing demand from new technology.
We need microgrids today because our grid is brittle and it needs to be brought into the 21st century where we're facing real climate risks, real disruptions. We have a pathway to clean energy and to distributed energy that microgrids enable.
A microgrid is basically a mini version of the larger grid, except that it's smarter, it's cleaner, it's more efficient, and it's tailored to meet the local community's needs using their local resources.
We have the technology at hand to solve many problems at once with the creation of a modern electric grid system using today's proven technologies. Learn more about how microgrids can benefit your community. Go to thinkmicrogrid.org.
And to distributed energy that microgrids enable.
A microgrid is basically a mini version of the larger grid.
Okay, so I gotta hurry because I only got minutes here. Go next, please. A microgrid is something that's coming on. It is being tested and it's being used in many places where builders across the country are determining that they can build a community with this way, where they have a distributed system within segments of a grid itself, where parts of a group of homes can then manage their own energy uses, and they can actually even move it offline, become completely codependent of the grid itself if they need to. And so some of this, go ahead first, if you would please. A lot of this is being shown to have tremendous value in terms of taking some of the capacity off of the grid itself by people having battery capacity, and three-phase battery inverters is the way of the future for all electric systems, because it allows you to do a two-way transfer of power. Next, please. So three-phase power is where you'll be able to have multiple vehicles charging at the same time. You'll be able to manage your power, and it's where we're going to be able to use smart grid technology. Next, please. So this is a community in Florida called Hunters Point, where it was built with, I believe, about 85 homes. And after, I can't remember how many years, but quite a few years, nobody's got an electric bill yet or any type of a utility bill, because they built the homes as a microgrid with using solar and other, mostly solar technology. Next, please. So this shows you how, on the left, how you can, the way you grab energy from the sun and convert it from DC to AC, and then back from AC to DC using your smart chargers and feeding the grid back itself. So if you think about, millions of vehicles having battery capacity to be able to feed the grid, I mentioned this last week, the future is being able to take vehicles that are charged and to be able to charge the grid with them, and then get paid for charging the grid, and then have it recharge your vehicle when and it's called load balancing, when the prices are lower. Next, please.
That's what I have with my solar panels on.
You have that now?
Mhm.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And
So Trina said she's already got that capability. Next, please. This shows you how a microgrid works in terms of control and storage and that kind of thing. Next, please. I'm gonna have to go kind of fast here.
watch it.
See if this plays. I'm not sure if this is.
Whoops.
No, that's okay. You know what? Let's not,
Okay.
we're not gonna play that. It might take up too much time. These are the different types of ways that microgrids work. The islandable means you can take it completely online, but you're not gonna lose any power within your own community network. So you can be isolated off of the grid, or you can be connected to the grid, either way. Next, please. Microgrid energy storage is gonna depend on, one of the things that Tesla is moving and other battery manufacturers are moving in a big way to making energy storage like this, for being able to, what I'm saying about, storing power and then feeding power back into the grid. So you'll see a lot more homes designed with this type of a technology built into the homes themselves.
Because we looked into it when we got our solar panels, and it's like $5,000.
Yeah, it's expensive right now, but these prices are going to
They'll
come
come
down.
down. Yeah.
Prices will come down. UK is already decided they're going to invest big in massive battery technology. whenever we built field stations globally, we always put large diesel generators in, that was the way of the past. But I think in the future, this will be how power will be stored. Next, please. So there's a factory in Tesla just to build these types of batteries. And so if you think of the microgrid is the micro, and the smart grid would be the macro, they integrated all of the rest of all of the communities within and the businesses and the cities within that microgrid. And all of that's going to be using smart software. So, it's a really good application for, there's one right there. I was mentioning a software that you can buy today. Do you have that? It's called OptiWatt. Do you have that?
It looks similar to that.
Yeah, okay.
I can look and see, I can see what each individual panel is doing.
If you want to do some research on your own, look at OptiWatt. Right now, even if you get an EV, you can use OptiWatt to manage your own power within your home today, and you're charging to your electric vehicle to save money. So charges when it's the least expensive. Next, please. This is basically what you're probably going to see more within parking areas, where you'll have a combination of solar and then battery technology to store it. So when the sun's not working as well, you can feed off the battery. Next, please. This is something coming. It's being tested right now. It's like if you think about charging a smartphone, where you put a phone on a pad. Well, it's not only wireless charging like this for homes, where you'll just be able to point your garage. You don't have to plug anything in. You're going to be able to just drive your vehicle in. It'll charge itself, and you'll be able to do it from an app on your phone. So that's under test right now from Tesla and other places in the world. This might surprise you, but Florida has a toll road that they've already have under construction that's going to charge your vehicle as you drive on the road. But Detroit has one that's already underway. It's already in test. That's only a quarter mile, but it's using inductive charging, like I was just telling you. So Sweden has it, Germany is developing it, United States, China is developing this, and many other cities in the United States are going to learn from Florida and Michigan how they're doing it. So you'll start seeing smart roads where you won't even have to, in the future, you won't even have to worry about going into a charging station. You'll be able to drive down the road and it'll charge your vehicle.
It's like they took the idea from maglev trains.
Yeah, exactly. Next, please. There's the one I was telling you about that's in Detroit that's already underway. So it's not something that's future. It's something that is relatively new future. Some of these things. So I would anticipate by 2030 you'll see this pretty commonplace. Okay, so I got 5 minutes here. I want to talk about the U.S. We talked about China China had kind of gotten way ahead of us because they invested. Next, please. And I like this graph because it shows you basically the last 10 years of EV sales and production by country. And it kind of shows you that China is the mass producer of electric vehicles, and that's not really a bad thing. I don't feel competitive like that. I think it's a good thing for the global environment because they have so many people, and there's it's not a bad thing. The United States is going to be producing more and more as time goes on. The one on the left I mentioned last week, the Seagull. It's hard to compete with an $11,000 vehicle. It goes 250 miles of range, and so they're cranking those things out like crazy. But BMW and other manufacturers that sell a lot in Europe they're seeing their sales really increase. So they're focusing more on electric vehicle than the U.S. manufacturers are in the United States right now.
Are Chinese EVs sold in the U.S. at all?
There is an electric bus made by China right now, but we have trade tariffs that make it, so that it's not really. They're not looking at. I saw some reporting by BYD, and they said it's not really in their interest right now to try to even penetrate the U.S.
There's
market.
the answer to your question.
So yeah, exactly. Right now, on the right are models that are available you see that, every year there are more models. That's going to grow exponentially from 2024 to 2028, I think, on the right. And then on the left is the China exports. But China has a pretty good foothold in Europe, but they also have, what I've noticed is Scandinavia, which has the highest adoption. Next, please. They actually have, Scandinavian countries are buying a lot of Volkswagens in Europe.
Ross, I got too caught up in I missed 2 chat questions
That's okay.
because I'm watching your program. Oren Road, I read that in Germany, they are putting chargers on streetlight poles where there's both electricity and structure.
Oh, thank you, Warren.
That-
Appreciate that.
And Susie asked what the maintenance needs of EVs are. Is the auto repair industry pushing back at all, or is that changing?
Right. That's a very good question. Both of them are very good comment and question. And the question was whether the auto repair industry is how they're adapting to EVs. I think right now you're going to see more of the dealer networks are going to be the ones that are going to be handling the repairs of your vehicle. But obviously there's going to be a huge market as there are more electric vehicles, out there for people to learn the technology. So you're going to have a whole new type of a mechanic that's going to
There
focus.
wasn't very much you had to do.
There really isn't. Right now, what I've seen is that they're extremely reliable. And even, the hybrid EVs like Prius and all that, they extremely reliable vehicles. So the components that are going bad so far that they have problems with are not anything that requires a specialized skill. The transmissions and the motors themselves and the other electric components that are unique to EVs tend to be, not a problem.
The computers.
The computers themselves, there you go. That's something that is a software. And the software right now is, I think everyone's going to follow Tesla's lead on over-the-air software so that everything is done by Wi-Fi in terms of updates. You're not going to have to take it to a dealer.
So to replace tires.
Yeah. So there's where I got 2 minutes here. Adoption in the EU electric. So that shows you by vehicle, but they're already about, I think, 47% of new passenger car registrations in the European Union through 2023. Next, please. And these are some of the stars that you see there. These are some of the countries that have the greatest adoption, and a lot of that has to do with the policies and the incentives. Sweden, Norway, Iceland. Interestingly, Vietnam. Vietnam is trying to penetrate the United States market, by the way. They have a vehicle called VinFast, and they're offering a VinFast, which is their highest end vehicle they sell. That's $50,000, and they're trying to get into the U.S. market by offering a lease for $299 a month. So that's how I ended up buying a Honda Ridgeline when they first came out. They were trying to get in the market, so I got it for a $299 a month lease. But that was 17 years ago. So this is really a good deal, And I ended up buying it after the lease was over. And I still ended up paying only a total of $25,000 for that vehicle. Norway, right there, is the highest adoption rate within the world globally. So we're learning a lot from Norway. Next, please. And then I mentioned this last week, 2 and 3 wheel vehicles. Next, please. And this shows you projections, kind of where what we kind of see happening based on where the industry experts like Bloomberg and the forecasters kind of see where things are going. Europe and EU, their way, they have an incentive too, also because of the cost of petrol, right? The cost of gasoline over there is generally more than double what it is here. Next, please. And then real quickly, I'll just touch on the auto manufacturers. General Motors as they're focusing on a brand called Lyric. They have Ultium is their technology. Next, please. We'll just go. Stellantis is the global. Next, please. And then we'll show you that's their platform for how they're going to build all their cars. Most of their cars are going to be built on this particular chassis, which you can get as Ford's. Next, I gotta end it right here. I gotta go downstairs. I got to almost everything. Only a couple slides left. So basically, there's Tesla's factories worldwide. Show you how big they are. There's where they manufacture globally. And
Go through, so it'll be in the recording.
yeah, so real quick, just go through these here. Amazon, all of these fleets. There's electric fire trucks that are out in 2 places. Tesla, okay, stop right there for a second. This is how we're gonna get into the future. You know, if you look at, we're gonna need, you know, by the time we have better range, lower cost, that more charging, more wireless charging, you know, more autonomous future, and then vehicle to grid integration. That's the future of vehicles. And the very last slide, real quick, boom. There's where we need to, how we need to get to where we're going. When we saw all these problems on the bottom, as you work through that, that's going to be our path to get to where we need to go. I'm sorry? The timing, I think, is, my feeling is by 2030 is where we're going to probably be past the 40 to 50% in terms of full electric vehicle sales in the United States.